is Krystal Jae. Thank you for joining me today on the Empowered Transformational Healing Podcast with me, Krystal Jae. Take this time, hit that like button, the share, the follow, whatever button it may be on the platform, and let's dive in to episode 4, The Things We Lose While Overcoming Trauma. So, are you ready to unlock your healing power, to turn your wounds into wisdom, to replace the fear of the unknown with courage to face it head on? If so, welcome to the Empowered Transformational Healing Podcast, a beacon of hope in your healing journey. I am your host, Krystal Jae, and now I would love for you to imagine this space as a sanctuary where we unravel the tightly knotted threads of our past traumas, where we transform our secret silent cries of pain into powerful roars of strength, a place where we finally break free from the invisible chains that are holding us hostage. It's time to stop questioning who you are and start discovering your authentic self. This is not just about survival. It's about thriving. It's about embracing the journey of transformational healing that leads you to live a life filled with joy, passion, and purpose. Each week, we will dive into powerful conversations, share inspirational stories, and sometimes heartbreaking stories, because guess what? It's all real and it's all true. And we'll provide practical tools that will empower you to navigate through life's challenges. So no matter where you are in your healing journey, this podcast here is designed to help you tap into your inner strength and embrace your uniqueness and awaken with your full potential. So now, let's begin. So, today we're going to talk about the things that we lose while we are in the process of overcoming trauma. So while we are starting, or we're beginning that journey of empowered transformational healing, we've discussed in previous episodes that we are actually going through a transformation. People are used to seeing us broken or fearful or lonely or shameful, and they're used to that mask that we use to cover all of that. And if we're someone to where we might be at the position to we're not having a mask no more, and we're just straight out saying, look, I need help, or look, I am ashamed, I am fearful, I am lonely, I am confused, I don't know who I am, I don't like my life, I'd rather be somewhere else, all the things. Different people, different ones of us have been there. So that's why it's important for us to start our journey of healing from trauma. And so we've discussed in the past, what does that may entail a little bit. And so today we're going to talk about how, while we're on this journey, there's going to be things that we lose. And some of those things are going to be good things, and some of those things are going to be horrible things, and some of those things are going to be heartbreaking. And trust me, I know I am also on my empowered transformational healing journey. Just because I may have been on it longer than some other people doesn't mean that I'm not still on it. Because the thing about empowered transformational healing and overcoming trauma and discovering who you really are and embracing your vulnerabilities is that you're going to continue to go through things while you're healing as well. And so you're going to always be in a spot to where you're healing from something, you're overcoming something. The difference of being on your empowered transformational healing journey and not is the fact that you have a community, you have the skills, you have resources, you have knowledge, and you're already doing the work to move forward, to live your best life, discover your authentic self. And I'm telling you, when you do that, oh, that's a biggie. Because when you sit there and you discover your authentic self, or you're discovering your authentic self, and you're like, oh no, this is not me. This is not me. Okay, I'm going to put this in. All of those things, there's going to be a process to where, like I said, you're going to lose some things, and some of those are going to be bad. So, I mean, going to be good. So, like when you go through and you're going to be like, I don't believe in this. I'm no longer allowing people to treat me like this. You're taking those things out. You're losing those things out your life, but it's a good thing, right? But then there's comes a time to where you're going to also realize that you're going to be losing some people in your life as well. And I'm not going to lie, that hurts. It hurts. But wouldn't you rather lose someone because you're becoming better, you're becoming your authentic self, you're all in, than to live in a life to where you are being, to where you're discouraged, to where you are living in fear of abandonment, where you're living a life of loneliness and shame and guilt and betrayal and everything else. I would take it any day to be able to be who I am authentically, to be Krystal Jae, than to be the Krystal that was broken, that accepted anything, that allowed people to treat me any type of way. Because that Krystal was suffering in silence. But this Krystal knows that she has messed up in life. She knows that she has made mistakes. She knows that she has hurt other people. She knows she has done things that she shouldn't have done. But this Krystal also knows that you can be better, that you don't have to put your pain on somebody else, that you don't have to have this persona of being someone else. This Krystal knows and can sit there and say, you know what, I messed up and I'm sorry, or I messed up and I apologize. And then not only say the words, but then take the actions to mean it, to move forward. You see, this Krystal, I've always been someone who wanted to know why of things. And a lot of us grew up with, when we say why or we ask why, where we're told to be like, just because, or because I said so, or because that's the way it is. Who can truly admit that you've been guilty of that? I have. I know I have. I own that. I have been guilty of doing that thing. But what I have also taken time to do is to sit back and remember the things that could have helped me move forward better in life, that probably could have helped me prevent in being in some of the situations that caused trauma in my life. We are not always at fault when it comes to our traumas. And we definitely are not at fault of things that people do to us. But what we are at fault is the things that we do to ourselves and the things that we do to others. And I don't want to live in that life of causing harm, causing pain, or being the one to be like, because I said so, or because that's just the way it is, or blaming others for my actions or for my words. Because I already know that my mouth, oh my goodness, my mouth can sit there and it can go, especially if you've hurt me. And I can sit there and I can just sit there and be like, well, blah, blah, just go back and go back hard. But one thing about it is I'm going to come back with facts. I have learned during this process to not necessarily do that. Has there been times to where I slipped up? Definitely. And those times was where I had to call myself out and I had to have a conversation with myself on what I could have did better. I've taken the time to speak to God and be like, look, I messed up. This is what I did. Help me to be better. Because you see, I know the power that lies behind owning my own mess. If I created it, then I have to fix it. Or I have to give it to God and have Him help me fix it. Back to things that we lose. We're going through this journey and we're realizing that this value that was instilled in me or that I was taught, I don't agree with. So boop, that habit that I picked up, that's not me. Or I don't know, I no longer agree with that. That no longer fits who I am. Boop, let me take that out. A couple of things that like I've kicked out or limited highly is like drinking. Like especially when I was in my early, my young years and young 20s, like I drank. And it wasn't to the point of being an alcoholic or anything like that, but it was like my son was with my family on the weekends because I have brothers that are his age. And so during the week, mom was mom. I had my son 24/7. Like if I wasn't at work, I was picking him up from daycare or picking him up from family and we were going home. And so the weekends were mine. And so the weekends, a lot of times, like I would go out with friends and everything else, kind of live the life of my age. And then of course there was weekends where I stayed home with him or me and him went out and did things. And so, but during that time, especially going out, like, I was partying, I was drinking and everything else. But one thing that throughout the years is that drinking is one of the things that I kind of really let go. I don't really drink much at all. I'm more of a sometimes social drinker. Like I can literally go months and not have a drink. And then when I do have a drink, it's more of having a drink or an alcoholic beverage, if you don't know what I'm talking about. And I will have a drink and then I'll be like, okay, and then I'm fine. I think that that's part of me wanting to be better and do better. And it's also part of me wanting to always be aware of my surroundings and always being able to protect myself because when you're drinking and stuff, you're altered. And so especially someone who has been through levels of rape, I've been physically abused, I've been mentally abused, emotionally abused. You know it all hurts. Psychological abuse, medical abuse. Yeah, it can be medical abuse. Not being in an altered state because I wanted to be able to protect myself at any time that I may need to. And so it was kind of like stopping drinking because of a fear, but also stopping drinking because I realized that I no longer really I didn't need that in my life in order to have fun. That I can be sober and still dance. I can be sober and still be goofy. I can be sober and still be me. I didn't have to use alcohol to minimize my walls so that way I could step out in the forefront as myself. And that was a good thing. Yes. Another thing that a bad habit that, I am losing or have lost a couple of times and picked right back up. I used to be a heavy smoker back in my early 20s and what we call young grown, right? It's like you're 18, so everybody considers you like everything, the legal justice, government, whatever, considers you grown. But at the same time, you're like, look, I'm 18. Y'all might say this is me and I'm an adult, but I still don't know nothing about life. And that's young grown because you're still figuring it out. You're learning a lot of things, right? But I think, yeah, I smoked a lot. And then it went to, oh, I just smoke when I drink. And then it went to, I don't smoke at all. And then it's like, here comes this major trauma that done happened. And now I'm stressing. I don't know what to do. And I have all these built up emotions and feelings that's going on within me that I'm like, how do I get it out? I want to scream. But if I scream, then everybody else will know. So what happens? You go cigarettes and you're smoking again, and so it's like, oh, the cycle. And so, that's definitely something like to like completely get rid of, to where even when I have those times of stress or whatever else, it's not the cigarettes that I'm going to kind of help me calm down. It's the meditation. It's the incantations. It's the breath work. It's the going for a walk. It may be doing squats. It may be playing something with my kids. It may be getting the coloring book and coloring in the coloring book. It may be, picking up my book or even another book and read, having different things to do. I will sit here or anywhere I may be. And if I was like, okay, like say example, I'm like stressed and I want a cigarette, whatever else, I can sit here and I can be like blowing my fingers. I can sit here and start thinking about other things, start thinking about positive things, start thinking about the benefits of not smoking, or sitting up here and reading a book or saying a prayer. When I really first was like, okay, I'm just gonna start exercising heavy, right? And so, like, I would sit here, I'd be at my desk sometimes, and I'm like, okay, get these arms going. And I don't got no weights. But guess what? I'm still getting it in. I'm still exercising. I can still feel the burn. I'm doing something else. I'm not smoking. I'm still keeping busy. Yes. And now, y'all, now after doing that so long and everything else, like my arms and some of my shirts that like they fit everywhere else, they're really tight around my arms. I just want to go and, cut them to where I have room for my arms, because I'm like, oh girl, you actually got some muscle here. That's not, because you're a little thick, right? Which nothing's wrong with that. And so it's just about, taking those things and replacing them with those. But those were good things to lose. When I get to where, I make these and the meditations and everything else, I have it then being from where I'm like, okay, oh my goodness, I can't handle life right now. Because just because you're on your empowered transformational healing journey, like I said, it doesn't mean that life doesn't still happen. It just means you can handle it better than when you were struggling, or when you were suffering in silence, or when you had that fear of abandonment. That's what it means, that you can actually handle it, and you can handle it better. Because you see, in this process, even now, let's be real, right? Even now. So if you don't know, now you're going to know. I'm I'm married right now, okay? The reason I say right now is because my husband just told me a couple of days ago. And so that's a whole nother story, whatever else. I'm in prayer with God. That's not something for a marriage is an intertwined between God, the husband, and the wife. I am definitely in prayer with God about that. God is my therapist when it comes to my marriage. I've definitely been in the place to where I have shared or went for outside advice to other people or whatever else on, hey, what should I do with this? And the thing about getting advice is that you have to make sure you go to the right people, and they have to be sincere, because believe it or not, some people are in your life so they can praise your downfall. And a lot of times, we don't even know that we have those people in our lives, or we don't realize who those people are. So, something that is super important to me, like my marriage, I'm going to God for that, which I go to Him for everything. But with that, that's God and God alone. Now, when I go to therapy tomorrow, is that going to be a discussion that me and my therapist is going to have? Yes. But that's also why finding the right therapist for you. Because my therapist isn't going to sit there and she's not going to tell me, well, I think you should do this. She's going to more help me go through my feelings and my emotions and my thoughts and not put in her own. That's what's important. And that's the difference because sometimes we may be like, I need you to tell me what to do. And when I've had people tell me, I need you to tell me what I need to do. Well, you know what? It's not my decision or place to tell you what you need to do, but I can tell you a similar situation, what I did. I can help you come up with choices and ideas and opportunities or whatever else, but I can't make anybody choose something. And I'm not going to sit up there and be like, you need to do this. That's not my place because your life is your life. This journey, there has, like, I can't even lie. I'm not even going to tell no stories. I'm not going to lie. There has definitely been some changes on this empowered transformational healing journey for me. Thank God. Hello. I will take that because they have been positive changes. So, yes, with these positive changes, with me establishing healthy boundaries, with me embracing my vulnerability and learning who I am and overcoming the fear of being abandoned. Because one thing that I've learned is that the majority of my trauma came from childhood because I had a fear of being abandoned. So, a lot of decisions that I've made throughout the years, a lot of things that I put up with throughout the years, is because I had that fear of abandonment. But now that I have worked through that and I have overcome that fear of abandonment, I am no longer limited to allowing people to treat me any type of way. I am no longer allowing to be shut down. I'm no longer allowing to be in a closet crying my eyes out because I don't want nobody to hear me, or being in the shower gasping for air because I'm crying so hard and really want to scream. I'm not allowing myself to suffer in silence. Because you see, overcoming that fear of abandonment also opened the door for me to start being able to heal from being physically abused, mentally abused, sexually abused, and everything else. Betrayals and all that other kind of stuff. One thing that I shared during the women's empowerment event that I just hosted in July, other than like my fear of abandonment, one of my true heartbreaks from a love was not a boyfriend girlfriend type of relationship, or girlfriend or husband wife, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Y'all know what I mean. It wasn't from that type of relationship. My first like true heartbreak that I recognized was a real heartbreak, like a real heartbreak, like a true heartbreak, was the destruction of the relationship that I had with my cousin, my sister cousin. I looked up to her and everything else. We had said that we were going to live together forever and we were going to buy this huge house and we were going to have husbands and kids and we were all just going to live together all happily. Yeah, we were kind of naive there because I'm like, yeah, I could not do that with nobody. But that was my first heartbreak, true heartbreak. Being able to overcome the fear of abandonment finally and opened up the other doors to healing. So that I was even able to go through the steps of healing from that. Because you see, when I had my mental breakdown, it reminded me of the destruction of that sister cousin relationship, and how that destructed, and how that was like, how dare you put me in this situation that you put me in, knowing I didn't do it. But you know what? I understand drugs make people do things that they would have never done if they're sober. Trauma makes, people do things if they were never traumatized, or didn't, or wasn't dealing with their trauma. The last thing that happened that came to my mental breakdown, my mind went straight to that, right? And went into straight defense mode, because my body, my mind, everything, every part of me remembered the trauma. It was all up here in the forefront. It was happening right now, even though it was another situation that was happening. And then them two together just grew, right? They just grew. And then here comes, remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this. And it was like, literally, that's how it was. And it was like I no longer had any walls, because I was broken. They have been hit down with a sledgehammer, or whatever. What are those balls called, where they go and they knock down like buildings and stuff? Like, it just went, like it just knocked all my walls down. All the traumas came in. Every single trauma that I've been through came into my life, and I was done. I was broken. That's why now it is so important for me to teach and show and be an example of what it's like to have empowered transformational healing, because I have seriously went through the ultimate mental breakdown, to where now I say I'm thriving in life. If people come and they look at me, they're like, okay, well, you don't have a fancy car. Well, you know what? I don't have a car, period. Because when I was during my mental breakdown, my truck broke down, and I was like, you know what? I'm not fixing no engine. Y'all can have this car back. I'm not even working right now. Like, 10K to fix an engine? And no, thank you. And I wasn't worried about it. And honestly, like, yes, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating sometimes when I want to get up and I want to go somewhere, or I need to go do something or whatever else, and having to, find other ways to do it, or borrowing cars or whatever it may be. It gets frustrating, yes. But even though I don't have all the bells and whistles and things that I had when I was suffering in silence, I rather be on this side and really loving who I am, being confident in who I am, knowing that I am worthy of love from myself, from God, and from others. I know that I am not someone to sit here and be that someone only considers when they are available. I will no longer have to live that life fearful of living alone, having people that I love leave my life. Yes, it sucks. It sucks having people that you love leave your life. But I'd rather have my healthy boundaries. I'd rather be healing from trauma. I'd rather be knowing who I am authentically than to have to make a choice to go back to living in pain and living in suffering and living to where I don't know who I am, to where I am confused, to where I'm like telling myself, you could be better. But how? You don't deserve to be better. You don't deserve to be loved, even if that is not pure love. And one thing, when I say that, it is important, it's essential for people to realize that when someone say love, it doesn't have to be because you are in a boyfriend girlfriend relationship, girlfriend girlfriend, boyfriend boyfriend, husband wife, fiance, whatever It doesn't have to be that type of situation or that type of relationship. It's all relationships. Whether it's your sister, whether it's your friend, whether it's, your brother or whatever else. It may be somebody in your church. It may be someone who was a really good coworker and y'all were like besties at work or whatever else. But now that you're learning who you are, people change. People will be like, "Oh, I don't like this person." Because one thing that I used to do is like, don't get me wrong, like I will definitely speak up for myself. But it took a lot to happen before I spoke up to myself sometimes or spoke up for myself sometimes. So then once I started overcoming that fear of abandonment, fear of loneliness, fear of not being loved, not being wanted, and I started embracing my vulnerabilities, learning to overcome them, putting healthy boundaries in place, making the decisions in order for those boundaries to be respected, to losing certain people out of my life. It sucked. But one thing about it is no one is limited from that. It's not that like only these people, or even that those things or whatever else. It's everything that doesn't respect a healthy life. And when I say a healthy life, I'm not just talking about nutritional value, whatever else, because that's something I got to work on. But it's more of talking about having more of a positive mindset, of having a growth mindset, of having love. For me, it's my love of God and being, and doing his work and sharing his message. That is something that is new for me and for a lot of people because I've always loved God and I always shared what I could. But lately I have been doing more of it and living the life and learning to listen and obey. And I'm telling you, that gets tricky sometimes. So of course, there's going to be people who's not going to agree. There's been times to where people could tell me and be like, well, you did this and it made me feel this type of way. I'm the type of person who I love and I appreciate constructive criticism. Because a lot of times if you do constructive criticism right, tell someone, using it as a teaching moment, let's put it like that. So someone's doing something, you can tell them what they're doing. You can tell them, why and how it makes you feel, or why it should be going a different way, or what's a better way to do it, or the way that it's supposed to be done, the way that it's written down in policy if it's at work or whatever else. And then, like I said, using it as a teaching moment. Not just saying, well, you did blah, 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 and then not saying nothing else. Sometimes, it's hard to have healthy communications. And that's something that I'm working on as well, right? Is healthy communications. And so that is part of healthy journey. That's part of empowered transformational healing as well. It's also in part important, especially for me, was boundaries, having those healthy boundaries, having those healthy boundaries, having those healthy boundaries. Also letting people know when they hurt me as well. Hey, I'm hurt by this. Or hey, this made me feel this way. But the thing about having people who've been in your life, especially for a while or whatever else, is that they're not used to you coming back and being like, hey, this made me feel this way. Or hey, this is a boundary and this is not what I'm what I'm allowing to come into this side. That is no longer the case. And some people can't handle that. They're like, where did this come from? It's only a one-way street. And then you lose people. But I'd rather be happy in here, in my here, in here. I'd rather be happy in who I am, living authentically as myself, following God, sharing his message. I'd rather be the person that he made me. I rather be someone who is full of joy and full of happiness and full of peace and full of love and full of confidence and full of knowing Again, I'm going to keep saying it, who I am. So, yes, losing people or losing, the habits or going through the process of getting rid of losing habits, those are things that happen, right? And so, like I said, yes, while we're overcoming trauma, while we are healing, we do lose things. Some things are good to lose. And sometimes there are things where we're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to lose this. I don't want this to happen. Or I don't want this person out my life. But then you get in the spot to where it's like, okay, is it my healthy boundaries? Is it my peace? Is it my joy? Is it being the overcomer? Overcoming those limitations, becoming who I am authentically, taking up for myself. Are you willing to never experience those things? Or if you are experiencing peace, love, joy, confidence, your authentic self, everything else, are you willing to give that up to go back to suffering in silence or living behind a mask? I wasn't ready and I'm not going to be ready. And I'm not willing to go back into suffering in silence in order to have a relationship with one of my brothers or with someone who was my best friend or possibly my marriage. But who knows? Like I said, that's God. That's it. It's me, him, God. Hey, that's it. And so, it'll all work out, in the best way possible. Because I can easily be sitting here and be laying in my bed and just crying and boohooing and going crazy. But the love, the joy, the peace, the knowing who I am authentically and being authentically me and owning my mess and overcoming the limitations of trauma. It's all worth it. Stop. STOP. Stop suffering in silence or suffering out loud or masking you're happy. You're having different masks for different days because you don't know who you are, or because you're scared to step forward, or you're scared to overcome trauma. But I'm telling you, this is the best I've ever felt. Yes, I still go through situations. I still go through trials and tribulations. Yes, I do. But the difference now is I know how to process them effectively. I've done the work of rewiring my mind to where my subconscious mind isn't taking over and being like, remember this? And trying to get me to go down this whole repeated thing of all these symptoms and everything else. Heck, I was just triggered on Friday night, a huge trigger from my childhood. But guess what? It did not stop me. It did not put me down, but that's because I knew the power in prayer. I know meditation. I know incantations. I know somatic work, using my therapeutic art skills, reading. I know the power of rewiring my subconscious mind. And so when you're on this empowered transformational healing journey, it's not about blame. It's not about shame. Wakanda. It's about overcoming shame and overcoming blame, because we're not blaming others. What we are doing is that we are embracing our vulnerabilities. We are breaking up with the limitations on our lives. We are breaking chains. We are becoming who we are authentically. We are gaining joy, peace, self-love, self-worthiness, self-confidence, all the good things, a positive mindset, a growth mindset. So wouldn't you rather have that and lose some things? And if you lose them, then guess what? They're not for that empowered transformational healing version of you. The you that you know is authentically you. You can bring people in your life if you choose who love you for being authentically you, who appreciates that, who can have those conversations, that healthy communications. Because we're going to still have trials and tribulations, but it's about knowing how to deal with those things when they come. Rewiring your mind to where it doesn't send you on this whole fight, flight, freeze. Be the better version of yourself. I wish I could just for a second share what I feel inside to someone who's really having a difficult time right now, so you can see the true difference. So I hope that our discussion or listening today, or even if you have questions about anything, comment, send me an email, send me a message. We can discuss in more detail the things we lose while overcoming trauma. So I look forward to speaking with or listening to or getting messages from you. And in the meantime, don't forget to like, comment, share, follow, subscribe, whatever it may be on whatever you're listening to. Because this has been episode 4, the things we lose while overcoming trauma. This has been Krystal Jae, and I look forward to us getting together again. Thank you for joining me today on the Empowered Transformational Healing Podcast with me, Krystal Jae. And we never know what others are going through silently. So take time to share, follow, and subscribe. And as always, believe in all that you are and know that there is this power within you that is greater than any obstacle.